Hi guys, Drew here. This is my 5th installment of the 2018 Pagan Challenge, and E is for ego. So what is the ego? The ego is the opinion we have of ourselves. It is the part of our mind that senses and then adapts to the world around us. It is the part of us that identifies itself by comparison, whether to other people or to society or what have you. Having said that, I have struggled with ego. Usually when we think of ego, we think somebody who thinks they're all that and they're hot stuff, but ego actually manifests in many forms. And even being too humble is a form of ego. And I used to suffer from that. I still try to be humble, but it was it was out of control. It was way in excess. Like I said, there are many ways that your ego can manifest. It's not just you thinking you're the best witch on the block or whatever. So essentially, we are born clear. We're always looking outward and we're not really self-aware. The awareness that we do develop eventually is sort of a reflected awareness. So when we're a toddler, we're clear, but then we do something and our parents react or the people around us react. And, it's happy, yay, clapping, good job, or it's no, you don't do that. However, they respond to what they feel is inappropriate behavior or action. And this writes on the chalkboard of us and tells us how to behave, who we should be, how the world views us, and thus how we should view ourselves. It's pretty manipulative, but it's kind of ingrained in us. And it's not as though, I'm a parent and I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking that I'm creating little egos in these people that I'm, cheering on or disciplining or whatever. But essentially that's what we're doing. Everything around us writes on the board of who we are as we are coming up and shapes our ego. And we shape that which is around us as well. So I want to talk about a few instances of ego versus higher guidance. So when we're coming from a place of ego, there is no effort required. It's like everything should just come to me. Everything should just be easy. I shouldn't have to work for anything. Whereas higher guidance requires some effort to be put in for growth and change. When we're coming from a place of ego, our interpretations are fixed. It is what it is, and we're very set in that. Whereas when it's higher guidance, there are many layers and levels of interpretations for any given situation or scenario. The ego focuses on the objects or the issues of a situation, whereas higher guidance focuses on the lessons learned or the growth that comes out of any situation. Ego either creates or becomes a victim, whereas higher guidance requires that we all take accountability for our own part in any situation that we find ourselves in. Ego is always central to the person. It's particular, it's personal. Whereas with higher guidance, of course, it's universal. And ego, of course, focuses on the destination, where we're going, what we want. Whereas higher guidance focuses on the journey, how we get there. And ego focuses on the material, while higher guidance focuses on the spiritual. And I bring up these examples because when we find ourselves in a situation, we can ask ourselves some questions. Do I feel victimized? What part did I play in this? How can I take responsibility and realize where I went wrong and helped guide myself into this situation to become empowered and grow and learn from this situation? Am I focused on the material? Am I focused on the destination? Or am I focused on the journey and on the spiritual aspect? Am I requiring any effort of myself, or am I expecting everything just to fall into my lap? These are questions that we can ask ourselves to take ourselves out of ego, or at least to become aware of whether or not we are acting from a place of ego. It is extremely important that we question our core values, the things that we hold to be self-evident, the things that are true no matter what, our personal, solid truths. it's important that we question those once in a while, because we need to figure out if they're coming from a place of ego. It can be really difficult. And it's real easy to figure out the answer, because if just questioning those, not even deciding to change them, just one asking if they're necessary or where they came from, or if they're fluid, if they could be changed, if that makes us extremely uncomfortable and is upsetting to us, that says that they are coming from ego, because the ego doesn't like to be questioned. The ego doesn't like to be silenced. It doesn't like to be integrated. It wants to control. It wants to be in charge. So questioning these core values, these core beliefs that we have, is important in order to affirm whether or not we are solidly standing in our spirit and in our truth, or if we're being guided by things that have shaped us through this lifetime that aren't really serving us. So yeah, that's my little spiel on ego. It's kind of a big deal for me. I think it's a really important thing. It's not necessarily talked about all the time. And of course, there are many layers, and it's psychological and emotional, and there's all kinds of things invested in that. But I got a message many years ago through a spontaneous channeling. And I wasn't even thinking about ego at the time, but the message was about ego. And ever since then, I have thought about it. I admit I probably need to do more work on my ego, but I have actually done. No, I know I need to do more work on my ego, but I have actually done quite a bit, but you can always do more. But the message essentially was not to fight the ego, but to embrace it and to love it for what it is. Kind of like shadow work, I guess. You know, you're not trying to diminish the shadow. You're not trying to get rid of the shadow. You're trying to accept the shadow and understand the shadow and integrate it. It's kind of the same with the ego. Having an understanding of what it is and the purpose it serves, because it does serve a purpose. We need to be able to survive in whatever society we exist in, and to be able to interact and to thrive even, but we better serve ourselves and our community and anything we come into contact with if we understand ourselves. And part of that is understanding what ego is, what it does, and sort of embracing it and growing through it. So yeah, that's it. I'm done. Thanks for listening. Until next time, much love and gratitude.